Welcome to Mr. Blue Football Analysis. Brighton welcomed Liverpool to the Amex Stadium and completely dominated the game by dominating possession. Brighton came away with all 3 points thanks to a brace from Solly March and a late goal from Welbeck. Liverpool are not having the best season, but this result is more to do with Brighton's tactics. Brighton would build up in their shape of 4-2-3-1, but with the keeper playing a vital part in starting attacks. The 2 fullbacks push up in line with the holding midfielders, and the keeper takes up a position between the centre-backs to provide the extra man, as Liverpool tended to press with a front 2. The other forwards dropped behind with Thiago in order to pick up the holding midfielder. With the keeper, this was now a 3 versus 2, and the fullbacks were in space. The fullbacks, however, were a dummy, as Brighton's main objective was to get the ball to one of the holding midfielders to progress the ball forward. This would usually be in the form of a pass out wide to one of the fullbacks who could press up into the space vacated by Liverpool on the wings. It could also be a more penetrating pass to one of the wingers. Brighton's shape when in possession was a 2-4-4, with the fullbacks in line with the holding midfielders and Lallana taking up position next to the centre forward, as Liverpool defended in their starting shape of 4-3-3. Their midfield was very narrow compared to Brighton's, and this left lots of space on the flanks, where Brighton could often create a 2 versus 1 against the fullback. Brighton had 41% of their attacks down the left, but it was actually on the right where they had the most joy, with Henderson often dropping back alongside Fabinho to pick up Lallana, who operated behind the striker. It meant that one of the Brighton holding midfielders was often free to receive a pass. Henderson dropped into defensive positions alongside Fabinho to cover the runs of the winger and the fullback down the right, but Thiago didn't do the same thing down the left, which often meant that Solly March was in acres of space down the left, and this is partly responsible for the first goal. Although Liverpool lost possession in the midfield, Thiago was slow in getting back to cover the left side. Instead of having both holding midfielders sit, Roberto De Zerbi instructed one of the fullbacks to invert at times, and this allowed McAllister to occupy a more advanced position behind the attackers, where Henderson would have to mark him. So, with Henderson and Fabinho occupied with McAllister and Lallana, the other fullback was now in plenty of space and able to create a 2 versus 1 on the fullback. Liverpool pushed Trent Alexander-Arnold into advanced positions down the right and built up from the back with their 3 defenders, as Matip moved over to cover the space left by Trent. 2 of the midfielders, Fabinho and Henderson, formed a double pivot as they covered the space in front of their defence. Thiago moved into an advanced position, forming a midfield triangle. This could also be a 4 in midfield, as Oxlade-Chamberlain would often drop back behind the front 2, with Salah moving more centrally, as Trent would often be high on the right. So Liverpool had this 3-2-3-2 when in possession, but this meant that with a little tweak, Caicedo would drop between the centre-backs to form a 3, and the full-backs marked the wide players, and the other pivot marked Thiago. It meant that Liverpool could not find the space to threaten Brighton. Brighton pressed Liverpool with their front 4, and also with McAllister at times, and with gaps in their defence, it was up to Fabinho and Henderson to fill them. This often meant that when they were on the ball, there was no one in an advanced position to pass to, as Gakpo or Salah would have to drop into the midfield, where they were pressed by Brighton's defenders, so play broke down in the midfield. At times, Fabinho was able to find space between Brighton's midfield and looked to release a ball behind Brighton's back line. However, with Trent not running beyond, it was 3 Liverpool attackers against 4 Brighton defenders. In the second half, Klopp instructed Henderson to be more advanced, but Brighton continued to dominate possession by dominating the midfield. They did this by inverting their fullbacks alongside the pivots to create a 4 versus 3. This is how they won the ball back and scored their second goal. This was an interesting encounter, but one that has not surprised. Roberto De Zerbi has a system that is very flexible and is able to dominate against bigger teams. This result sees Brighton move above Liverpool in the table, and a European spot is not beyond their reach.